Welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Colin Stanton.
Hey, Colin, I think time is winding down for you, man.
Is. We think Susan's almost back.
Susan should be back from maternity leave, we believe, next week.
Yes.
So
we think.
If not, we'll need you in the hot seat again, okay?
All right. I'm ready.
Maybe she might get a little up to speed. She might need a little practice getting things started again.
All right. I'll be warming up in the bullpen, keeping the arm loose.
Oh, there you go. I like that, man. Hey, funny story to start things off with. I get an email from Carfax the other day saying, how is your Ford Fusion? It was a car that I bought for my, at that time, a teenage son. That was several years ago. And I sold it several years ago. He's driving 3 cars since then. But it said, hey, how's your car driving, and what kind of maintenance issues do you need? And I noticed it had, now I sold a car with 160,000 miles on it. Okay, it's a Ford Fusion. Drove great. I mean, the only thing I did on that sucker was like tires.
Wow.
But I noticed in the Carfax it was already up to 290,000 miles.
Seriously?
So whoever bought it, I don't know if they've sold it much more, if it's the same guy that I sold it to, but it's got 290,000.
That's a lot of driving.
That's a lot of driving.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, man.
Good for Ford, man.
Good for Ford. Yeah, exactly. And as we all know, they stopped making sedans. Now they're just making trucks and SUVs. But
I mean, you hear about like Hondas and Toyotas doing that. You don't necessarily think of other brands.
I know. And now I wonder if I should have kept the car. But
try to help.
Yeah, who knows? Hey, but we are talking about car maintenance. It can get pretty expensive. So for more on that, with all the do's and don'ts, and we want to talk about some of the myths of car maintenance. So we got Jim Garnid on the On Your Side podcast. He's an automotive expert for decades, and he owns High Tech Car Care here in Phoenix. How you doing today, Jim?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So I think you said that your grandfather opened up High Tech Car Care back in the 40s. So, man, talk about a family-run business. This has been around a while.
Well, he actually opened it in 48, and it was a parts store. And he named the company Auto Parts Company. But that would be like naming your company Kleenex. Instead of Kleenex, you name it Tissue.
Yeah.
So within a few years, he went by the acronym of APCO, APCO.
Okay.
And the APCO company has evolved into being auto repair.
All right.
This building we're in was opened in 1978.
Okay.
Or no, 84. 84.
It all runs together because you've been around for so long, and that's a sign of a successful business and one that people trust. So congratulations to you. Hey, let's just jump up right into this, Jim, and talk about some of the common myths of car maintenance. And I'll jump right out with number one in my head, and that is premium fuel is much better for your car. You should use premium fuel on your car. Is that true or false?
Well, it depends on what you're driving. If you have an engine that's high compression, premium fuel is going to be better. And normally it's going to tell you in the owner's manual, on the gas cap, on the fuel thing, it's going to scream at you everywhere, premium only. In that case, don't mess with it. The engineer said premium, use premium. Most vehicles out there will run on all grades. And the low grade is, lower octane, and it has a lower additive package. Whereas the middle grade generally has an additive package that's very similar to the premium. The octane's a little bit lower. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. We have a problem with the fuels that are going into vehicles provide a lot of varnish and buildup. So the additive package will help it clean the fuel system while you're driving. So you don't have to do it every tankful, but it might be worthwhile to step up a level every now and then.
I know, and you just mentioned that it's in the manufacturer's handbook, which is always a good idea to take a peek at that, and it's always on the gas cap. But I have a family member who insists on putting in premium fuel at every fill-up. That's not a good idea. I would assume that's somewhat damaging to the car in some way.
Actually, probably not. It's higher octane. The vehicle will run okay on it. It does have the best additive package. The only difference is he's spending money he doesn't have to, or she.
Yeah.
All right. How often do I need to change the oil? The old adage is every 3,000 miles, but that's kind of outdated, isn't it?
Well, most vehicles anymore use a synthetic blend or full synthetic oil. That oil is going to last a lot longer. I mean, some vehicles, they'll say 7,000 miles. Most of them that have stretched them to 7 to 10 are starting to scale it back some. But really, the issue is not so much the oil itself. The oil driven a car in the valley, the silicone that's in the air is more significant than most places where you would drive. We have dust. So you're going to want to change it a little more often than it calls for. But what I like to see with my customers is even if they're going 7,000 miles on an oil change, I want to see that car at 4,000 miles so I can open the hood, check all the fluid levels, adjust tire pressure, close the hood, and print them a new decal to stick up in the corner. Because the problem of going a year without changing your oil is most everybody does not open their hood. They don't know what it looks like down there. And when I was a kid growing up, a century ago or whatever it was, you would drive down the street on the weekend and people would have their hoods open. They're out there, maintaining their vehicle.
Yeah.
Now, if you pass a vehicle with the hood open, they're in trouble. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
So come in more often, but not necessarily for an oil change.
That's almost like saying go to the doctor. You don't want to because the doctor's going to find something wrong with you. But on a preventative measure, I guess it is good to know that something might be going on before something under the hood breaks. Hey, what about this myth? Flush your transmission fluid every 50,000 miles. True or false?
False. Now, it depends on what you're driving. Every transmission is going to be a little bit different. Have a Honda Civic Hybrid. Initially, when they engineered the vehicle, they said it would go 60,000 miles between oil changes. Well, they found out that that's a great way to replace transmissions. So they've scaled back that interval, and now it's like 24,000 miles. And that's not globally or in normal conditions, but when you run consecutive days over 100 degrees, transmissions suffer. They do not like the Arizona heat. Cars in general like temperatures like we do. The 80s are super comfortable. 110, not so comfortable. And your transmission is one of the components that really suffers. Now, the problem with transmission fluid is the owner's manual will say to check it at 30,000 miles, which any good mechanic's going to do that. But then when you come at 34 for your next oil change, it no longer shows up on the interval for you to check it again. So the reality is you need to keep checking it and check it every time. Transmission fluid, when it goes bad, the color will change, the odor will change, often smells like fish, but those conditions occur after the fluid is bad. And your best course of action is take care of it before it gets bad. So it depends on what you're driving. Some cars will go, 80,000 miles. They're hard to maintain because they didn't make the fluid to be changed. They don't have a drain plug. They don't have an oil pan. They made it more difficult to maintain it. However, the fluid is not lasting forever. Only place it'll last forever is if you keep it in the container in your trunk and don't expose it to heat or sunlight. Should last pretty close to forever.
Hey, is there a difference between a transmission fluid flush and a transmission fluid change?
Absolutely. Basic service is a transmission fluid change. You'll drop the pan, you'll drain that fluid, you'll replace the filter or clean the filter if it's a screen that can be cleaned, but you service it that way, and it replaces that amount of fluid. Now, that pan probably holds 3-4 quarts. The system holds about 12. When you flush a system properly, you replace all 12 quarts of the fluid. So all of the fluid has been replaced and you're starting fresh. Whereas if you do a drain and fill or a pan drop, you're only replacing maybe 25% of the fluid. So I could do that right now on your car. You could drive around the block, pull the dipstick, look at the oil and go, it already looks dirty. Well, because it is. You only replaced a quarter of it.
Okay. That's a good point. I know some places won't even do the transmission flush. I went to one place for my kid's car not long ago, and they were like, we don't do flushes on transmissions because it just stirs up too much crud that's in there, and it could really lead to something more serious. So they just do the changes. But like you said, the flush does everything. I guess it just gets everything out there. But is there a risk of getting some gunk in places where it shouldn't be with the flush?
I don't know what they were using, what type of equipment. The new current equipment does not do anything different. When they first came out with flush machines, they actually thought reverse flushing would be a great idea. Instead of running the fluid the same direction as it normally goes, we'll run it backward because that'll break everything up and clean it up. Well, the way seals are designed, you run fluid the wrong direction past a seal and you'll invert it. And you end up with all kinds of problems from doing the wrong service.
Yeah.
New equipment anymore, if you envision that you just have an empty bucket and a bucket of clean fluid, you take and connect a hose to the system so that it's sucking the fresh fluid out of the bucket and pouring the old fluid into the empty bucket. You keep running the machine until the fluid coming out is clean and fresh. And that's an oversimplification. I mean, we're talking, equipment that costs $5,000. But that's really what it does. The system moves the fluid through it. So there's no additional stress. There's no induction of dirt. It's not possible to make things worse. We do have chemicals that you can put in the system because transmissions will build up varnish. You can see it like on a dipstick. If you pull the dipstick out, it's shiny all the way down toward where the fluid's normally running, and then it looks kind of brown to black. That's varnish, and that's through everything in your transmission. So there are chemicals we use to break that down. Transmission fluid itself is a very good cleaner, but this helps clean even better. So once you've used that fluid, you also want to neutralize it because after you're done flushing it, you don't want those chemicals to continue to eat away at the metal instead of just the varnish. So there are processes between just a drain and fill and a full transmission flush, and your professional technician should be able to tell you which one it needs before providing the service.
Okay.
Hey, if I have a car that's still under warranty, do I need to have that work done at the dealership to maintain that warranty, or can I come to a place like High Tech or a different independent garage to have that work done and still keep the warranty in place?
They don't dictate where it can be done, and they don't dictate what parts can be used. If the dealer's saying you have to use this particular part, I believe it's the Magnuson-Moss Act says that they have to provide it for free. So it's really good if you can get them to tell you that because it'll save you a lot of money in the long run. But you don't have to take it to a shop. You can service your vehicle yourself, but you better maintain very good records. A professional shop will have the history of when it was replaced, what was done, what fluids were used, and you'll have no problem with your warranty as long as they use the correct chemicals.
Hey, a couple of years ago, I had a blowout on my car. It was one tire. I had to get it replaced, but I went ahead and replaced the two tires because I don't like doing just one tire. And if I have two tires, I usually just do four. I like to do it in either pairs or sets.
Right.
I hate to do just one tire.
Yeah.
What's the rule of thumb when it comes to buying tires if you have one that needs to be replaced? Do you do two tires instead of one or just the one?
Very rarely would you want to replace one. I mean, if the tire was fairly new, tread depth's really good, and the other one is in great shape, so you know real measurable difference between brand new and the one that's left on the car, you can replace it no problem. Most of the time you want to do it in pairs. And if you have an all-wheel drive vehicle, like the fortunate people with the Subaru, you replace four at a time because all four tires should be the same size. You also want to rotate them regularly so that the tire wear evens out and it'll last longer. You should probably rotate it every 5,000-6,000 miles, depending on what you're driving.
I would assume with every oil change, which is between 5,000 and 7,000 miles nowadays, just go ahead and get the combo hookup, do the oil change and the tire rotation every time.
Or at least every other.
Okay.
One more tire question. Inflating the tires. You have one set of pressure that's on the tire itself, another one, like in my case, is on the door jamb. What's the proper inflation for the tires? Do you go with the tire itself? Do you go with what the car says?
You go to the door jamb. The number that's on the tire tells you its maximum pressure and maximum load. It doesn't tell you what the car should have. The people that engineered the car said it should be at this pressure. There are some derivations there. If you're using nitrogen instead of air, you probably go a couple pounds higher, roughly 10% higher if it's nitrogen. Cool thing about nitrogen, it's inert, so it doesn't expand and contract as much as air. When you have regular air in the tire, you should pretty much check it first thing in the morning before you go driving it, because it's the cold PSI. And it's never cold in Phoenix, but once you've been driving that car on the hot asphalt, it's going to be a long time before that tire cools off. So you cheat a couple degrees if you're testing it when it's already hot, but the best thing to do is test it cold.
I always thought nitrogen was a ripoff. Do you recommend putting nitrogen in your tires?
People are allowed differences of opinion. We've used nitrogen for a really long time. It's a great process for blowing out air conditioning systems because it's dry and
Yeah.
it won't add any moisture to the AC system.
Yeah, we're talking about tires, though.
I'm getting there. Hang with me just a moment. So we had the ability to hook up the equipment and put it in your tires, but it would take a long time, meaning you'd have to go take the air out of the tire, hook up a regulator and stuff to the nitrogen, hook it up, and go around and do one tire at a time. Well, anymore, they have equipment that you can hook up to all 5 tires. It'll bring the tire down to 1 or 2 pounds of PSI, fill it with nitrogen, drain it back up again, and fill it again with nitrogen. If you're doing it with pure nitrogen, you should end up with probably 97, 98% purity in the tire. That's going to be worthwhile. There are some benefits there. How much is it worth? Like, how much would you pay to have it done? Very little. I mean, it's not going to be a process where you want to pay an extra $200 to put nitrogen in your tires. But if it's an extra 20, you will probably see better tire wear. The pressure can be tested when it's cold, when it's hot or cold. Problem is, if you're somewhere out in the sticks and there's no nitrogen available, I've had customers go, I can't get nitrogen. What should I do? Put air in it. And then when you come back into town, we'll take it back out and put nitrogen back in it.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt to mix it.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt to mix it. But establishing the value is hard to do. If you're driving a vehicle where the tires are less than $100 a piece, it's not hugely economical to put nitrogen in. But if your tires are $800 a piece and you're going to get some more miles out of it, hey, $40, pretty well invested.
Yeah.
In some parts of the country, we hear about people winterizing their car or summerizing their car. Is there anything you really need to do here in Phoenix or in Arizona? Does the climate change enough that there's anything specific I should do certain times of the year?
Most in the Valley of the Sun, it doesn't change enough that you really have to do anything different. However, if you live in the Valley of the Sun and in the wintertime you like to go up skiing, you probably want to make sure that it's going to handle winter temperatures better.
Okay.
We are concerned about windshield washer fluid having good chemicals in it so they don't streak. It'll remove the bugs, stuff like that. They really don't have a freezing problem with windshield washer fluid in Phoenix, Arizona.
Right.
However, you go up to Flagstaff, you might have a problem there. Of course, probably not going to use the windshield washers anyway, so it's not a huge issue, but it'll crack the tank and cause other problems. Antifreeze is also coolant. When you set the coolant for Phoenix, Arizona, it will work as an antifreeze in Flagstaff. But if you use too much water, too little water, it affects its ability to function. It's designed to be roughly a 50-50 mix of a concentrated chemical and fresh water. Fresh water does not mean Phoenix tap water. That's not a good thing to put in a car. But you want a neutral water, put it in with the coolant, mix it 50-50, and you should have good protection for heat and cold. Tires that are designed for Phoenix, Arizona don't drive on snow very well, but people that drive cars in Phoenix, Arizona don't drive in snow very well. So
Fair enough.
That's a good point. Hey, last question for you, Jim. Our cars have been sitting in the parking lot all day. We've been hard at work all day. We want to leave and we start up our car. Is there a rule of thumb with how long you should let your car just kind of warm up, so to speak, let the fluids run? How long should you give your car before you put it in reverse and get out of there?
Well, even when it's hot outside, there's a choke process to the vehicle when you start it, and that's to affect the air-fuel mixture when you start the car. You notice that when you first start it up, the idle speed's a little higher. It will drop down fairly rapidly when it's 110 degrees outside. You should be good to go at that point. But something you should pay attention to when you get in the car, roll all the windows down and put the air conditioning on outside air, not recirculate. Because if you're trying to recirculate that air with your windows rolled all the way up, you're trying to take air that's 160 degrees and cool it down to be comfortable. You're better off getting all of that out and start at 110 degrees and try and get it down to comfortable. So just change your air conditioning settings. On an older vehicle, like in the 80s, you'd actually want to turn the air conditioning off before you tried to start the car. But now with computer programming and everything else, the car takes care of that for you. When you're cranking the car, it does not engage the air conditioning while it's running.
Yeah, everything's computerized these days. Hey, Jim, thanks for being on the On Your Side podcast and talking about car maintenance, some of the myths that, I love these 5,000 to 7,000 oil change. I mean, you get to really stretch it out, And
nice.
Some of these cars are expensive. On mine, it's expensive. Yeah. Hey, Jim, if people want to find out more about high-tech car care, do you have a website or any address you want to put out there?
hightechcarcare.com. So it's HITECHCARCARE.com.
All right. Sounds good. Again, thanks for being on the podcast, okay?
Also, if they're not in my neighborhood, I'm in an association of shops called NARPRO. It's the Neighborhood Automotive Repair Professionals. So there are shops in the East Valley, in the West Valley, so you can find somebody more convenient than me. And convenience is important when it comes to maintaining your car regularly.
Yep, absolutely. All right, thanks a lot, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Have a great day.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.